guys, and welcome back to my video. So don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit that bell button, and I'm just going to jump right into this video. So this video is going to be about my journey with diabetes. I was diagnosed back in May of 2014 with type 2 diabetes. The way I found out was me and my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, were in his room at his parents' house, and we were having like a movie night type date thing, and we had pizza and we had soda and like chips and cake and everything, and we were eating, and then I noticed I kept constantly going to the bathroom. And I said it could be just because I was drinking a lot of soda, but then later on that night while I was asleep, I kept waking up out of my sleep to have to use the bathroom, and I was barely being able to hold it. And I was going to the bathroom pretty much like every hour, so that was my first indication. My second indication was I was at work, and you know those large McDonald's cups, I would drink a whole thing of that plus ice all in it, and then I would fall asleep. And I did a security job, so we would take like breaks to be able to go take a nap because I was working the night shift. But I would drink about 2-3 of those and then go to sleep for 30 minutes, wake up, use the bathroom, drink 3 more, wake up, use the bathroom, and was constantly going through that rotation. So at that point, I decided to take myself to the hospital, and I got there and my sugar is at 576, which your sugar should be below, I believe it is 150. Or I'm going to check and put the real number on the screen. If you see it on the screen, that means I was wrong. My sugar was 576, so I had got a lot of fluid and was referred to see a endocrinologist to be able to go ahead and further my treatment and see if there's something that I could get under control, because once you have diabetes you can't get rid of it, but you can get it to a point where it is controlled. So I was seeing a endocrinologist in my area, and at first it was hard because I'm young and I'm a foodie. I love to eat food. I love junk food. I like candy, and I don't like sticking myself with needles. So it became very hard for me, and to the point where I ended up in the hospital November of that year with diabetic ketoacidosis. They had a hard time getting my sugar to come down, which was my first ever near-death experience, because you would either end up in a coma, or it could go as high to the point where while you sleep you could just become shocked and pass away. So that was something that I dealt with at a very young age. I think I was, in 2013 I was turning 19, so I had just turned 20 years old when I had went through that. Once I got out of the hospital, I had it under control, but it got to the point where I wasn't having low sugars. They were dropping below 30. And I'll leave the correct number for that too, what it's supposed to be. Whatever the number is I kept falling under, and so then I had to take glucose pills to keep my sugar up, which then ended up not balancing out my diabetes again. And I was at home one day and I kept using the bathroom, and I was just telling my boyfriend at the time, I was just like, I feel like my diabetes is back. And I checked my sugar, and for sure it had spiked up into the 200s, and again I had a very hard time dealing with it and coping with it, so my numbers was always high. The second time I was able to get it under control was when I was pregnant with my baby girl. When you have diabetes during pregnancy, it can either cause you to have a stillbirth, miscarriage, or your child will have birth defects, and I did not want that for her. And it took all the way until my 7th month to get my sugar finally under control, where they weren't scared that something was going to happen to her, and she came out perfectly fine, perfectly healthy. And my sugar was under control while I was there and when I got home. But then I developed cancer 3 months well, I had cancer pretty much the whole time I was pregnant with her, but I found out I had cancer 2 months after having her. And so they were shooting me up with a lot of steroids. When I first got in the hospital, my legs were really huge to the point I could not walk because they were feared with so much fluid. Eventually they got the fluid out, and my diabetes I could get in control in between cycles, but then when I would go back in, they would give me more steroids, which would unbalance it, and I was back to taking insulin again. Now I am back to taking insulin. I am at the mark of just not doing what I'm supposed to do all the time. I take my insulin sometimes for a week and then stop, and then take it again for a week and then stop, and I may go 2 weeks and then stop. So I am in the process of looking for an endocrinologist in the VCU area where I live, because I do have to have all my doctors with VCU at this point, especially for the next 2 years, to make sure they have all of my records, and just in case they take blood work or something from me and they notice something weird, that they can look back to my charts and know if that is going to be something bad, or leaning back towards cancer coming back, or even leaning to something else being traumatic happening. So I have to keep all my doctors pretty much in the same area. Type 2 diabetes is basically has to do with your weight. So you have type 1, type 2, gestational, and juvenile. Type 1 is basically your body just doesn't make enough insulin to counteract all the sugar that you're intaking, and it just all of a sudden just stopped being able to do that, and it's nothing you could do about it. You're pretty much probably going to be taking insulin for the rest of your life. Type 2 is more to do with your weight. If you can get your weight down and get your diabetes under control, then you can get to a point where you don't have to take insulin needles. They do have like metformin, which is a pill, or even to the point where you're not taking anything at all. Juvenile diabetes is when you either are born with diabetes, or you were diagnosed with diabetes at 17 years of age and under. So you just basically got it as a child. And sometimes juvenile diabetes just goes over into type 1 diabetes, just because at that point you're just not a juvenile anymore, or a child anymore. And then there's also gestational diabetes, which what mine went from type 2 to gestational, because gestational is when you're pregnant and your sugar is out of control because you either gained a lot of weight while you're pregnant, and you know most pregnant people eat more. Your body's not used to you taking in that much sugar, and you've like always been small, or your body's just used to say, hey, you're big, but you only take in this certain amount, then your body actually won't be able to produce the amount of insulin that you have started to increase over time. I am dealing with diabetes. It's not something I am happy about. I am only going on 24 in October, and with having a kid, I want to be able to just share and indulge in things with her. So my goal is basically to get my diabetes under control, so we can have those days where we pick out and I take my medicine and everything's okay, or I can eat something and my sugar doesn't shoot up so far, and also staying in shape, just to be able to run around with her, and just also to make sure that I'm healthy. So I will be indulging in those two journeys pretty soon, and I would love to bring you guys along with me. And like I said, this is a family lifestyle channel, so anything I am doing, I am going to record and put out there and just show you my life. So if you have any questions about diabetes, don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section, and I will be sure to get back to you and answer any of your questions. Or if it's a big topic, I will be sure to do another video on. Again, still wanting to do the comments of today. So comment of today is, what is something in your life that you are not proud that you have, but you are working towards changing? So whether it's, I'm not proud that I have a beat up car, so I'm working to save and not spend a lot of money to be able to buy a better car for my family. I know I can afford it, I just need to stop overspending. And I am going to leave my how to save money videos up in the cards above, which should be popping up right about now, and I'll also leave it in my description box below. Again, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on your post notifications, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.